So I'm doing an MIM at ESSEC Business School in Paris, France. But right now I'm on exchange at Cornell University in the MBA class. So I've experienced both an MIM and an MBA. Yes, there are high-level differences like average age, average salaries, average fees, which you can just find out by doing a Google search. But there are also so many more smaller differences which you only know by doing both these degrees. In this video, I'll talk about these smaller differences and take you through what I've experienced in both these degrees. If this is the first time you're seeing me, I'm Fazil. I help people make the right decisions about their careers. So make sure you subscribe to my channel. It'll be a win-win for the both of us. So I chose to do an MIM. Why? Let's go back to 2021. I had just graduated from Christ University with a BBA degree. COVID lockdown was still ongoing and I was stuck for 2 years, almost 2 years, inside my house. My goal was to leave my house and get exposure as soon as possible. I just had one criteria. No matter which degree I did, MIM, MBA, MSc, whatever I wanted to do, it had to be from the best institutions. And because I had this criteria, an MBA for me was automatically out of the equation. Why? Because all of the best MBAs, Harvard, Stanford, Wharton, INSEAD, all of them require at least 4 to 5 years of work experience. At least 4 to 5 years. But in reality, in practice, it was even more than this. To even have a fighting chance of making it to these schools, I would have to stay in Bangalore for at least 5 to 6 more years, get good work experience, and then apply to these schools. And I just didn't want to wait so long. And looking back, it was the perfect decision. I got into ESSEC Business School, the number 3 ranked MIM in the world, and came on exchange to Cornell University, the number 9 ranked MBA in the world. There is no way I would have made it to Cornell directly unless I came here on exchange. And I was also able to do it at a fraction of the cost of what it takes to do a full-time MBA. So it worked out for me. But what should you do? Starting off with the most important thing, fees and ROI. So let's compare ESSEC and Cornell. I would say both ESSEC and Cornell are around the average in terms of fees and ROI compared to other top business schools. So it's a good comparison. Fees at ESSEC for the MIM, which is a 2 to 3 year masters, is 50,000 euros. The return you can expect after you graduate is a salary of 60 to 80,000 euros, which might not sound like much, especially if you've been hearing about US post-MBA salaries. But for Europe, especially for France, these are great salaries. Now coming to Cornell, fees for a full-time MBA program per year is $83,000. For 2 years, that's $166,000 just for tuition. This is 1.4 crore rupees. In terms of returns, the average salaries people expect after an MBA at Cornell is around $175,000. Including bonuses, this becomes around $200,000. These are great salaries, much better than what you would get if you were in France. But you're forgetting one thing. After an MIM, you do entry-level jobs. But after an MBA, you do managerial level jobs. So obviously the salary you're going to get at 24 years old at an entry-level job is going to be much different than a salary you're going to get at 28, 30 years old at a managerial level job. Just 3 years after graduating from a top MIM in Europe, you can expect a salary of more than 100,000 euros. Even doing an MBA in Europe gets you the same salary. For example, after an INSEAD MBA, you can expect a salary of around 113,000 euros. So basically what I'm trying to say is, no matter which degree you do, an MIM or an MBA, as long as you do it from a top institution, you're going to be making a similar amount of money when you're 28, 30 years old. But what is different about the MIM is that you're also going to be spending much lesser. Even in the best MIMs, you spend 40, 50 lakhs. But in the best MBAs, you sometimes spend 1.5 crore, 2 crore rupees. I believe in taking the least amount of risk for the highest amount of return. I'm okay taking a risk or taking a loan of 40 to 50 lakh rupees, but taking a loan or taking a risk for 1 crore, 1.5 crore, 2 crore rupees, that's way outside my comfort zone. Especially when I know that at 28, 30 years old, I'm going to be making the same amount of money. The second major difference is in the actual classroom and academic experience. If you've done a BBA, your Masters in Management degree is going to be very similar to a BBA.
आपका आवाज किधर देखेले लगता है मेरे को?
You're going to learn the theoretical aspects of marketing, of finance, of accounting in your core courses, and then you can specialize in a certain field of business with your electives. The classroom experience is quite theoretical, and it makes sense. The MIM is for entry-level graduates who need that theoretical base. I remember the subject I hated most during my BBA was accounting, and once I passed my accounting in my BBA, I thought, okay, I'm done with accounting, never again. But when I got to my MIM, I learned that same account. My first course during my MIM was accounting. So if you've done a BBA, I would not recommend doing a master's in management because it's going to be the same courses all over again. What I would instead suggest you to do is do a specialized master's, like a master's in marketing, an MSc finance, subjects which you can specialize in and go really deep into. An MBA classroom is very different to an MIM classroom. People in the MBA come after 5 years, 6 years, 8 years of work experience. The person on your left might have done consulting for 6 years, person on your right might have done corporate finance for 8 years. So do you really have to teach them the basics of finance again? Not really. They still do teach you the basics because a lot of people who come to an MBA don't have a business background. They come from other fields. A lot of them are engineers, a lot of them are techies. But after teaching you the basics, the classes become much more specialized and much more based on discussions rather than theory. Teachers hardly present. They don't give lectures. They just facilitate the classroom and all students give their input from their experiences. You're graded on the basis of your class participation. So everyone participates, everyone contributes, and I would say the learning experience of an MBA is much better than the learning experience of an MIM. Now, no matter which degree you want to do, as long as you want to do it from a top school, you will have to write a standardized test. I know that there are a lot of schools which give GMAT or GRE waivers, but more often than not, these are not the best schools. Especially if your profile is not the most well-rounded. Maybe you don't have the best work experience, maybe you don't have the best grades, maybe you don't have the best university on your resume. In all of these cases, your standardized test, either a GMAT or the GRE, becomes much more important. And if you want to get a high score on your GMAT or GRE, I would highly recommend Target Test Prep. They're the best GMAT or GRE study resource available out there, and that's what I used to get a 750 on my GMAT. I personally did not have the best work experience, and my GPA was extremely bad as well, and that's why Target Test Prep came to my rescue. It has everything you need to prepare for the GMAT in one single platform. Practice problems, error logs, study plans, videos, and the quality of all of these resources is amazing. Plus, the platform adapts itself to your strengths and weaknesses. So it delivers custom study solutions, custom study plans, custom practice problems. It basically delivers a whole custom platform on the basis of what you need. And that is the most important thing when you're preparing. It makes the entire process so much more efficient. I personally know a lot of people who spent years preparing for their GMAT, and I was able to do it in 1 month and get a 750, which is a 98th percentile score, and I give a lot of credit for that to TTP. If you want to watch my videos about what study plan I use to get my score, make sure you check out my GMAT playlist, and also make sure you check out TTP. I'll attach their link in the description below. Another big difference is in terms of culture. In an MIM, everything feels a lot more like an undergraduate degree. People want to start building their careers, so they spend a lot of time studying and building that base. Plus, people are a lot younger, so the interactions you have, the parties you go to, the events you go to, they're very different to what you would have in an MBA. An MBA is much more professional. Every single time you meet someone, it feels like a networking event. You're trying to analyze this person's background, how he or she could be of use to you in the future. Relationships feel a lot more professional, and they also feel a lot more transactional. Like, you help someone because in the future they could help you back. There are also events every week where the point of those events is just to to network. The point of an MBA is the network. That's the most important thing people get from an MBA. The brand value, the brand name of that university, number one, and number two, the network you build while you're there. Another factor which you have to think about is which country and in which part of the world you want to do your degree in. MIMs are only popular in Europe and the UK. No one in the US will even know what a master's in management is. It's been growing in the recent years. Some universities now offer a master's in management, but it's not seen as a big deal at all. MBAs, on the other hand, are popular everywhere, and the best place to do an MBA is the US. Most of the top 20 MBAs are in the US. So if your goal is to be in the US, you will have to do an MBA, and MIM is not a good option. But if you want to be in Europe, an MIM would be perfect. So finally, what should you do? I don't want to be that person who says it depends. I used to hate it when people used to say that to me, but the answer is yes, it depends. It depends on your goals, it depends on your background, and it depends on your situation right now. It depends on a lot of different factors. But what's my personal suggestion? I am biased. I would suggest doing an MIM and then doing an MBA exchange. You will require less investment, and yes, in the start your return as well will be lower, but eventually it will catch up. I personally wouldn't suggest doing a full-time MBA in the US unless you get a big scholarship, unless you're absolutely sure about your profile and you just know that you will get a job after you graduate. Especially with all the layoffs and all the uncertainty in the hiring market in the US, taking a loan of $200,000 might not be the best move. Now, what do you do if you're in the middle? If you're 24, 25 years old, maybe you're too old for an MIM, but your profile is not quite ready to do an MBA. This is where it gets a little tricky. A lot of people in this age bracket end up choosing the MBA, but I would actually advise against this, and this is why. When you're applying to jobs, when you're applying to internships, recruiters will see that you're doing an MBA and they'll consider you for MBA level jobs. But they will also see that you only have 2 years of work experience. Justifying a $150,000, $200,000 salary on someone who just has 2 years of work experience is very, very difficult. And I see it every day. I know a lot of people in this gray area of 24, 25 years old who are doing a full-time MBA, and most of them are struggling to find internships, struggling to find jobs. In this case, again, a specialized master's, like a master's in finance, a master's in marketing, any field which you want to specialize in will be a much better option. You would be able to specialize in a domain, and your previous experience will actually hold a lot of value. As always, if you have any questions, make sure you drop them in the comment section below. If you want to know how I built my profile to get into these top business schools, make sure you watch this video and make sure you subscribe to my channel. I'll keep helping you make the right decisions about your career, and it'll be a win-win for the both of us.